Hey dudes, it's Lerald, and in this video I'm going to give you all of the information you need to go from just starting out with maps to blasting tier 15s, sustaining maps, and making lots of currency. I'm also going to show you how to quickly unlock all of your passive points for the Atlas, give you some map rolling tips, and I'm also just going to recommend a couple of Atlas trees as well. There's a lot of detail in this video, so I will break it down into chapters just like I do with all of our videos, so you can quickly skip around if you need to. I will start off by saying that I finished the campaign on my Smith of Kitava, and the changes GGG made to monster behavior and the Act 3 layouts in particular last week really worked. I feel like the campaign is much better right now. With that being said, I still prefer the Javazon, so that is what I am playing at the moment. So let's start off with Waystones. Waystones Sustain was significantly improved in this patch. In a couple of methods. First off, they've made it so that when you clear a map, you kill all of the rares in a map, you are given a really high chance to get a Waystone drop from that final rare. At tier 1, it is 100%. As you progress up toward tier 15, that percentage goes down, but if you have some suffixes on your maps, then it's pretty much always going to be 100%, even as you're progressing all the way through. Now, one big change that comes with that is you're no longer going to get any lower level maps, which is fine. You don't really need to do lower tier maps if you're able to do higher ones. And +1 maps, if you're doing a tier 3 and you want to get a tier 4, the only way to get those is through killing bosses. And so this makes boss maps very valuable early on in the course of progressing through your maps. Like if I look at my Atlas, like just to show off my Atlas in game here, I'll go back to my origin point here. So, just like everybody else, I start at the Ziggurat Refuge, and then my layout is different from everyone else's. And so initially I started out just simply going in one direction, straight up. So I came up this way, and I think around here, like right in this valley here, so only about maybe 50, 60 maps away from my starting point, I was already doing tier 15 maps. This is great, right? This is a real change of pace from how it was in the first patch. It was really good to be able to just very quickly progress through maps. Now, if you run out of your highest level map, maybe you're not able to sustain. That is sort of an intended mechanic, the game's way of saying basically, if you're not able to clear tier 12 maps consistently, you probably need to do some lower level maps and get more gear so that you can clear those tier 12s. But there is a workaround. You can come over to Doriani, and he now sells 10 of whatever the highest tier map that you have cleared -1. So he'll sell these for like 18,000 gold each, and you can just buy them all up. Like 18,000 gold really isn't all that much. I farmed over 3 million gold just in the last 2 days, just kind of running maps. You can take those over to the reforging bench 3 at a time, and 3 to 1 them up in tier. And since you can buy 10 of them at once from Doriani, technically speaking, you can actually progress above the level that you were at. You could buy 10, 3 to 1 those, and then 3 to 1 the remaining 3, although you can't 3 to 1 past tier 15. And I'm at tier 15, so there you go. So map sustain is better than ever, really, really, really easy. Now map rolling is still super, super important, and it is the mechanism by which you get your maps to be more or less rewarding. So I kind of want to talk about the way that maps work. So unlike in PoE 1, map prefixes are all exclusively helpful, and I can show that off using PoE 2DB here. You can see, this is the extent of all of the map prefixes that exist in the game. There's a combination quantum rarity, there's a flat rarity, or I guess only rarity. There are rare monsters and magic and rare monsters, and then there are a handful of others. But those 4 mods are really the 4 mods that you want to get onto, pretty much every map. Certainly any map where you're trying to find currency, you want to either have quantum rarity or rarity, and then more rare monsters, because rare monsters drop pretty much all of the stuff that is of value in the game: currency, items, uniques. And Waystones actually also tend to drop from rare monsters more than anybody else, I guess bosses. But these are what you're looking for: quant rarity, rare monsters, magic and rare monsters, and then everything else is kind of whatever. Suffixes, on the other hand, either make monsters stronger, in the case of these damages extra elemental, or the percent increased monster damage, which this one is probably the most dangerous one because it is just 40% increased damage. These increased or damage as extra elemental are then reduced by your resistance. So, this is like 10 to 15 more lightning damage depending on your resistances. This is 35 to 40% more monster damage, quite a big difference. But all of the suffixes in the game either weaken your character by like putting different debuffs on them, or reducing your elemental resistances, or they increase the strength of the monsters, making them tankier, making them do more damage, move faster, and so on. So increased monster damage and monster move, attack, cast speed, these are probably the two most dangerous ones. I would say penetrating elemental resistances and added extra damage as an elemental resistance is also a pretty nasty combo. Those really stand out as being pretty bad, but there is one effect in here that I actually wanted to devote a whole section to. It might not be showing up in this list, but I assure you it is in there. I have dedicated a whole Hall of Shame to it, and that would be Temporal Chains. Temporal Chains, I believe, got like a 300% buff in this patch. I don't know why it was buffed so much. Temporal Chains sucks. It is now like 22 or 24% reduced action speed. It is extremely toxic. Do not run Temporal Chains maps unless you have some way to counteract the slow or you just really want to have a bad time. Temporal Chains is terrible. So like I said, prefixes give you more stuff, give you more reward, give you more guys to kill. Suffixes make the monsters harder, but they also make the monsters drop more Waystones, as you can kind of see just by me comparing like this map that is all three prefixes. You know, it's more monsters and more stuff found in the map. And then I think I have a map around here somewhere. Here we go. Here's a map that has all suffixes, 4 suffixes because I corrupted it. All suffixes, much higher Waystone drop chance, but no like fun, interesting, rewarding prefixes. So the thing about mapping in this patch, because you do have an increased chance of getting a map from the final rare monster and also maps from the boss, is that once you're at tier 15, you don't really need 3 suffixes or 2 suffixes or potentially even 1 suffix on your maps when you're trying to juice them. So because of that, there are some things we can really use to like help with map rolling, and that would be like some of these omens of Sinistral Coronation. You can just simply take like a white map, transmute it, and hope it hits a prefix. Okay, that's fine. I can deal with one suffix on there, and then I can right-click a Omen of Sinistral Coronation, regal it, and now it's a 2 prefix map, and I can run this, and it's like totally fine. Another thing you could do, because these are quite cheap, is you can actually have several of them activated in your inventory all at once, and I'll just kind of show this off here. I'll just roll. I'm pulling from the wrong tab. All right. Just see if I could grab 5 white maps all at once and just kind of show off how I've been like kind of fast rolling a lot of my maps. All right, so I'll just accept that I'm going to have 1 suffix on all of these maps, and I'm fine with that. I did see that this one rolled with Temp Chains, so we're not going to roll that one. But I'll just roll them like this. Not really looking at what's on there. As long as it's not Temp Chains, it's fine. So Sinistral Alchemy makes it so that when you alchemap, which does require burning an alch, but when you alchemap, it will then have 3 prefixes and 1 suffix. So this is really like ideal, I think, for most high level farming. When you're not like super juicing, you'll have guaranteed max number of prefixes, and then you'll have 1 suffix. Your Waystone sustain will still be pretty decent. As you can see, I have like, I think about between my inventory and my stash, like 80 or 90 Waystone. So I've been like doing, and I basically farmed all of this up just in the last day. So this has really been working in terms of like getting currency and also sustaining maps. Except for this Temporal Chains when that's going in the Hall of Pain. Now there are corruption outcomes that you can go after, and these are actually really important for pushing from kind of the like good, comfortable, juicy maps to like really pushing map juicing to its absolute maximum. So the 3 main corruption outcomes that you're kind of going to be locked in on or looking for are, there's one that will convert half of the mods to a different type. So in the case of this map right here, this is a good example. This was a 4 mod map. I corrupted it. It converted 2 of the prefixes into suffixes. It could just as easily go the other way. So if you're really trying to juice maps, you will want to roll them up to 6 mods and then corrupt them and hope that it turns into a 6 prefix map. That's kind of the ideal. Maps can also just add 4 mods. I have some maps in here in one of these sections. Here we go. In tab number 5, where I just have like 5 prefixes, or maybe this is like 4 prefixes and 4 suffixes. I think this one is like 9 suffix or 9 affix map. I think it's 5 and 4, 5 prefixes and 4 suffixes. So very dangerous, but also very rewarding. You can get up to 10 mod maps. At least you could in patch 0.1. I assume that hasn't changed, but they are pretty rare. And then the other thing that can happen is maps can roll up or down a level. Like I have a tier 14 map here that was an okay tier 15 map, and I corrupted it and it rolled down to tier 14. Not going to use that map. You can also roll them up a level, and this is how you get tier 16 maps. It's the only way, and you can combine this with irradiated tablets to get 81 level 81 zones, and that will then make all the rare monsters in those maps level 82, and that is how you get level 20 skill gems. It's how you get a lot of higher level bases, and, you know, it also just kind of gives you more currency, more reward from doing the maps. Now, one thing that was a big change from patch 0.1 is that the number of modifiers on your map now also affects the number of times you're able to die and still clear that map. So, showing off again, this map that has, you know, like 8 or whatever, 9 mods on it, 0 revives available. If I just take like a white map, it's going to be 5. If I take like a 1 mod map, it's going to still be 5. And then it just simply reduces the number of revives you have for each mod you add. So, 2 mod map, 4 revives, 3 mod map, 3 revives, all the way up until you hit 6 mods, at which you have no revivals left. So this is why really I think the ideal way to play for the vast majority of players is just simply to do like 3 prefix, 1 or 2 suffixes. That way you'll have 1 or 2 revives. You know, you can make some mistakes, you can wipe, you can die. And if you do die once or twice in the map, you're then still able to clear the map out, get everything out of it, because if you burn all of your revives and you haven't cleared the map, it will shut. You'll have to reopen it to be able to path through it on the Atlas, but you won't get any fancy, you know, it'll turn off all of the tablet rewards, it'll turn off all of the league mechanics, any bosses will despawn. Just not a good feeling. Waste of time, really. Alright, so that's Waystones. Now let's talk about tablets. So tablets are the main juicing mechanic of the game. They are critically important, and you have to do them correctly if you really want to make a lot of currency. Now, the thing about tablets is that they all have exactly the same set of prefixes to roll from: quantity, rarity, and rare monsters are the 3 prefixes you want. Tablets can only, by default, tablets can only exist as magic items. There are some rare ones that you can get from the Arbiter of Ash, but those are pretty rare, and those all drop corrupted as well, so you can't roll them. So tablets are pretty plentiful in the game right now. I think they have increased the drop rate of them. The way you get tablets for various mechanics, like breach tablets, you do breach monsters drop breach tablets. You do expedition monsters drop expedition tablets. You get the idea. The only one that is just kind of generically available is the regular precursor tablets. These make all the maps, or a number of maps in the area, be +1 to the monster level of that map. All the rest of the tablets will add a mechanic onto a set number of maps in the radius of the tower that you complete. And so now I really want to take a look at a tower here, because I have cleared up to this tower, and the way that towers work is very different. They cut the number of towers way, 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 way down, and they made it so that putting a high-level waystone into each tower actually has value to it, and also a high number of modifiers. So you're guaranteed to get 1 tablet slot just by completing the tower. If you complete the tower with a 3 mod map, you'll get 2 tablet slots, and if you complete it with a 6 mod map, you'll get 3 tablet slots. The number of maps that are affected by the tablets will be impacted by the tier of map that you run. So if you run like a tier 15 map with 6 mods, you'll get basically double effect on the number of maps that your tablets will hit. So if it's a well-rolled tablet, you know, like, let's say this map right here, right? 18 maps in range are irradiated. If I were to run a 6 mod tier 15 map, this would hit 35 or 36 maps. Pretty much almost all of the maps that are in the radius of this tower. And that's, you can kind of see if I scroll around to some other areas here, you can see that's exactly what I did in this area. Like this area here, I think I put an OK irradiated tablet, a breach tablet, and a delirium tablet, and you can see pretty much all of these maps have breach, delirium, and then they are irradiated, for the most part. Now, the difference between all of the tablets, other than the mechanic that they add to the maps that they select, is the suffixes. So the regular precursor tablet suffixes include quantity of waystones, which can be helpful if you're trying to sustain waystones. There's also the rare monsters have a chance to have an additional modifier that mod that could show up on this tablet that is really valuable as well, because rare monsters are where most of your currency drops from, and having more modifiers makes rare monsters more dangerous but also more rewarding. Then there's just a bunch of other, like, you know, you could get this bit of extra bonus content or whatever in there, and that's good too. Overseer tablets specifically correspond to map bosses, so all of their suffixes are going to apply to map bosses only. Kind of the same deal, right? You want to get quantity and rarity as much as you possibly can on all of the tablets. And then the 4 league mechanics, Ritual, Breach, Delirium, and Expedition, all have modifiers that correspond to those different league mechanics. They can all be good or bad depending on what kind of strategy you're trying to use. Now, there are also some unique tablets. I've pulled up the collection of them here. The Ritual unique tablet was abused by some people early on, but it has been changed, so that's not possible anymore. I think the Expedition unique tablet looks really, really good, being able to guarantee that all runic monsters are duplicated. That's a very valuable Expedition node normally, so this is obviously very good. You know, some of the Overseer and Precursor tablets, kind of whatever. The Breach tablet also seems pretty interesting. Being able to just have the Breach stay alive until you kill everything inside of it, that's kind of neat. So in terms of in-game goals, while you're just working your way up toward tier 15s, just kind of making your way around the Atlas, you can hit up the towers, run whatever maps you can throw in there, and just put tablets that you have available. Irradiated tablets, I think, are generally good while you're climbing tiers, just simply to make the maps be higher level, be a bit more rewarding, get more Waystones out of the maps that you're running. For in-game juicing, you really, really want to lock in on running these like 5s or I guess 6 mod tier 15 maps in all of your towers, because that'll allow you to put 3 tablets in every tower, and that's crucial for getting as much like quantity onto each of the maps as you possibly can. Quantity and rarity really are how you get more currency drops. All right, now I want to talk about corruption and purification. So Coalesce Corruption is the main mechanic of the Atlas in patch 0.2. As you move around the Atlas, you'll find these red areas full of sort of ugly tendrils that kind of look like evil spaghetti, and killing packs of enemies in the maps in these areas will spawn more monsters right on top of you, which is kind of annoying, but it does mean more guys to kill, so like more chances at loot. Again, it is scary, so be careful, especially if you're on a row amount. They have knocked me off and killed me more times than I care to admit. So in the middle is the Corruption Nexus. This area contains a corrupted boss. These can be a map boss map. They can just be a regular rare killing map. Either way, whenever you kill either the final rare or the map boss of this kind of Nexus map here, you will spawn a corrupted boss. It kind of comes out on a bit of a delay. They're kind of easy to kill, to be honest. At least in my experience, they've been very easy to kill. So killing the Nexus boss grants Atlas passive points. You get 2 points per boss you kill. The map tier that you have to do this on as a minimum increases every time, starts at tier 1 and goes up, you know, up to tier 15. So 15 times will unlock 30 points. I hit tier 15 maps before I found my 5th Nexus, so, you know, you don't have to do them one at a time. Maybe there's some retuning required there, but yeah, it's fine. So killing these map bosses, at least up to the level that I've done them on, doesn't require any number of mods in order for them to give you a reward. So you can err on the side of caution. You could definitely do like a 2 mod map and have 4 or 5 respawns available to go at the boss. Now, I do have some tips on how to find these out in the fog, because, you know, they're pretty easy to identify once you're on top of them, but if you're looking way out in the distance, it's kind of hard to see, right? So there are a couple of telltale signs. You can see towers have their 2 little orange pointy spikes sticking up off of them and kind of glowing. You can kind of see the light pulsating on them just a little bit if you zoom in. So if you look around, you can find towers that are right next to a corrupted Nexus. You'll see they're enrobed by that evil red spaghetti. You can see this tower looks very different from, you know, another tower that's equally far away. Actually, this one also has evil red spaghetti around it, so clearly there is a Nexus here. You know, you can see it, for one. You can see it sticking up and spewing out its red swirlies. And then you can also see a little bit of red swirly around this tower as well. Those are obviously very different looking from, like, this tower, which is just a regular, non-evil tower. Or even this one as well. Again, not evil. You can also just simply look around for red patches on the ground at the edges of the fog. Like, I can't see a Nexus in here. I know it's in here, though. I think it's right there. But I could see it far before I, like, zoomed in, because I could see just a little bit of red coral the corruption in the distance, I knew that the Nexus was going to be in that fog there. Now, once you clear out the corruption nexus, I could show off some areas where I've done that. Once you clear out the corruption nexus, all the rest of the maps in the area will instead turn into these kind of crystallized white purified maps. So purified maps have a couple of things that make them special. For one, they are able to drop fractured orbs. Fractured orb drops are actually really generous. They're very rare in PoE 1. They lock in a modifier on a rare item, which is very valuable for crafting, and it is in PoE 2 as well, but there are a lot more of them available, which is pretty cool. Purified maps also have some special map mods as well, some of which are amazing. This one area contains the Immured Fury. This is like a special boss you can fight. He has some pretty cool like voice lines. And every time I've killed him, he's just guaranteed dropped a Fractured Orb. So I think he's guaranteed to drop a Fractured Orb, but I'm not 100% on that. Some of the other modifiers on these purified maps are just really interesting, like this one with 50% reduced quantity, but then almost 200% increased rarity. There are some other modifiers as well that I really wanted to show off. If I could find them. This is probably the biggest problem with the petrified maps is you do actually have to look around a lot and like actually read what they say, because it is kind of just hidden out here, like what is in these maps. Here's another example. Waystones have 22% more effective prefix and 24% less effective suffix. So this is a really valuable modifier if you were to roll a map up and corrupt it and get like 5 or 6 prefixes on a map. You could then throw it into a purified map that's then gonna like massively increase those even further. You could be running a map with like triple-digit amounts of quantity if you have enough overlapping towers and really good prefix rolls and the right Atlas passive tree setup, and then also Purification applying a more effect on top of all of that. So that's a gameplay loop, right? You progress through the map, you look for the red spaghetti, you hunt the corruption, you clear it, you clear out the purified maps, and then you profit. Now there are a couple of other wrinkles as well. There are some special maps. They're not unique. They were clear about the fact that they're not unique maps. They are special, because they're literally not unique. I can point out several of them in this area here. This fractured lake map that I cleared out that is basically the Lake of Calandra from PoE 1. I have another one over here just on the other side of the water from it. I think I have another one down here somewhere, somewhere around here as well. They're all indicated with this sort of orangish looking thing. I don't know how to describe it, sort of like a triangle with a circle in it. Yeah. So I have found 4 different unique maps. So the Castaway, which is kind of like a buried pirate treasure cove thing. The Fractured Lake, which is Lake of Calandra. The Feral Megalith, which is like a boss rush grass standing stone area. And then the Viridian Wildwood. They all seem to be like mostly correspond to one type of biome, like the Fractured Lake and the Castaway are both in the water biome. Kind of makes sense. The Feral Megalith is in the grass biome, and then the Viridian Wildwood biome seems to maybe have like both forest and swamp as options available. And then I know that there's one that can exist in the desert biome that's full of essences. I just haven't found it yet. I've been looking for more deserts. I just haven't found it as of yet. So there's no real strategy to finding these unique maps. You basically just have to keep looking around the atlas for them. Maybe you'll get lucky and find 4 of them within the span of like one valley. You just kind of have to keep checking biomes that you haven't already found a special map in. Now, there is another in-game mechanic in this game, and that would be Citadels. They are super easy to see now. This was a patch or a change that was made early on in patch 0.1. They were given a beacon. Above them, there are 3 different types of Citadels, and they're pretty simple. They correspond to the 3 act bosses that are in the game right now. There's Iron Citadel, Copper Citadel, and Stone Citadel. Those are essentially the Ogham Manor with Calgeonor at the end for the Iron Citadel. The Copper Citadel is a Dreadnought with Jamin Ra at the end, and then the Stone Citadel would be the Black Chamber with Doriani at the end. Now, the thing that's special about the Citadels is that the bosses at the end of the map drop keys for the game's current uber boss, the Arbiter of Ash, and the drop rate of those keys is based on your Waystone drop chance, so you don't need prefixes on these maps at all, only suffixes. So a map like this one that has 4 suffixes and no prefixes is actually really good for running one of these Citadel maps. Running 3 suffix maps at the very least is really good, and for that, Dextral Alchemy Omens are a really good option. They're also very cheap. You can buy like 5 of these for 1. I mean, prices always change, but at least when I bought them, they were like 5 of them to an Exalt. So I bought 25 of them. This will hold me over for the next 25 Citadels I run. Not too bad. All right, so that's all the basics of map setup. What about actually running maps? They're pretty simple. In a map with a boss, your objective is to kill the boss. That is it. For maps without a boss, your objective is to kill the rares. In both cases, you have a very high chance to get a map for killing the rares and a high chance of a +1 map from killing the boss. Once you've killed the boss and the rares, you're pretty much good to leave. If there is a mechanic in the map that you haven't completed yet, like an expedition or a breach or something, go hunt it down, but otherwise you shouldn't need to kill all the magic or white mobs in a map. I've had juicy maps in which I felt like I should do that, and maps where I just killed all the rares in the first 30 seconds and it felt wrong to leave so quickly, and so I killed everything that was in them, and in both situations, it was a total waste of time. 90% of your currency comes from rare mobs and bosses. This is fine. Now I briefly want to cover each of the main mechanics of mapping before moving on to some Atlas passive trees and wrapping up. I will do much deeper dives on each of these league mechanics in future videos, but here's kind of a brief overview. Alright, starting with Breach. Breach is very simple. You log in, you blast. That's pretty much it. It was nerfed somewhat from the first patch. It was spawning an egregious amount of monsters. I still think it's very good, it's just balanced now compared to what it was before. Delirium is also equally simple. You zone in and you blast. Alright, I got into editing and I just realized there's one thing I did want to mention about Delirium. They updated the visuals to be just like a lot less noisy in mapping, and they also updated the music, and I think it is much better than the PoE 1 version of Delirium music, so I'm actually a big fan of both the audio and the visual updates they made to Delirium in this patch. It's definitely my favorite league mechanic right now. Simulacrum is not my favorite league mechanic, not by a long shot, but Delirium is very good now. Delirium mirrors now last 2.5 times longer than they used to, so they are significantly more playable now than they were in the first patch of the game, or even just like the first week of the game. They're really good. Infusing maps with Delirium emotions is a really effective way to add a lot of extra juice. We're talking more rarity onto the maps or rare monsters onto your maps, and it will massively increase your currency farming with other mechanics like Breach. GGG added recombination into this patch, but it really doesn't work very well, so I still think Expedition doesn't really feel very rewarding. Gamble crafting still works, it's good for SSF, but it's not good for trade leagues. Expedition in general is a very complex mechanic compared to the other 3 league mechanics. I like it. I think it feels very evolved and developed, certainly a lot more depth to it than just log in and blast, but the reward for the time spent just really isn't there. Farming and selling logbooks from Expedition is still a good strategy. I think the currency rewards from Expeditions and maps feel like they were buffed. I could just be imagining it, but I do feel like I get more Exalts and Chaos from running Expeditions than I did before. I like doing Expedition, I just don't feel like it's really all that rewarding for the time compared to Breach and Delhi, where you don't have to have your brain on it all, you just kill the monsters and then they drop stuff. Ritual is the final of the 4 league mechanics. It is much better now that every ritual page guarantees an omen. It feels pretty rewarding. Very fair. I don't feel like I get slighted most of the time that I run ritual, which I did in the first patch. I still don't love fighting in a circle though, when I could be running and gunning throughout the map. It's a good mechanic, 100% it is. I've gotten good rewards from ritual. I still just don't find it to be like my personal favorite with the build I'm playing right now because I am fast, and ritual is slow. And then finally, I'll just give a special mention to bossing. The main purpose of bosses is to drop Waystones. That's pretty much it. I think that's okay. They're really good while you're working your way up from tier 1 to tier 15. They occasionally will drop big chunks of currency at tier 15, but I think they should probably drop more than they do in tier 15 maps. I enjoy them mechanically, I just wish they dropped a lot more currency than they currently do, because now that I have no problems with map sustain, I don't feel like I ever need to use the Overseer tablets at any point. Alright, now I'll just briefly mention the 5 types of bonus content in the game as well. Essences are super easy. They're not very rewarding, but they are more rewarding on average than a normal rare monster, at least in my experience, and they're usually easier to kill because they're imprisoned until you walk up and unlock them, unlike rare monsters, which are usually trying to eat my face before I've even entered the screen. Rogue Exiles are new to this patch. I really like them mechanically. I just don't think they're very rewarding. They seem to only drop gear, no currency at all, and I just feel like, you know, why are Exiles all so poor? I don't know, I guess because not enough currency drops. Strongboxes did get a buff this patch. They are faster than before. They are more rewarding than before, but more rewarding than 0 doesn't have to be great, and that is kind of how I feel about strongboxes. They're better, they're still not great. They're still slow, they're still very dangerous, so I'm not a huge fan. Shrines are good, but they're very dangerous as you are walking up to them, especially some of the like fire meteor shrines could just absolutely one-shot you before you're able to get to them. They're fun once you get them and get the buff on you, but they are pretty dangerous up to that point. And then finally, I'm going to kind of tee off on wisps here. They are new in this patch. I hate wisps. They are my least favorite mechanic in the game by a wide margin. I think they're fixable. I'll say that before I continue. I do think they're fixable, but they are not fixed yet. Having to walk alongside the wisp and not kill the rare that it is slowly trying to enter really goes around, it goes against the wave that you play the game right now. They are slow. They are very dangerous. If they moved ahead of you and affected the rares, that would be good. That's called Torment. That is a league that was added into PoE 1 in 2014. Right now, it feels like GGG has moved backward from the design of Torment. Again, I think the good news is that this is very fixable. I think they could just increase the radius of the wisps, or once they get within like a couple of screens of a rare, they just run over to it. Either of those would be good, but having to like hand hold the wisp and walk it all the way into the rare is excruciating. Also, there is a quote from Tujin from Expedition that kind of nails down all of my issues with wisps, really. He says, "Treasure will make this worth it." Well, I don't find that I get anything extra from the wisped monsters. They're supposed to have higher quantity and rarity, and maybe they technically do, but it's certainly not enough to tell that that it was like worth all of the effort. They have a pretty decent chance to drop special items called like talismans. These effectively are just like socketable items. I think that's a cool concept as well, but they're not good enough. They're not rewarding enough for the level of inconvenience. I'm fine with being inconvenienced, but I want a reward for it. Being inconvenienced for nothing absolutely sucks and is stupid, and that is where wisps are right now. Again, fixable, but that fix does actually have to happen because right now I hate them. Now I want to talk about Atlas passive tree progression, specifically as you are making your way through maps, and then I'll show off 3 recommended Atlas passive trees. So this is more or less what I recommend for a tier 1 to 15 map progression. You really don't need any points in the Atlas at all to make your way up to tier 15. In terms of what I actually did, I just did this. I just went to 3 Nexus of Corruption. I got Constant Crossroads for more Waystones, which is good, obviously, when you're trying to climb tiers. And then I came over and took Rising Danger for more rare monsters in your maps. This is also really good. Just in general, having more rare monsters means more stuff in all of your maps. So that's the basics, right? Just these 6 points, that's all you need. You can take some more small passives that'll give you quantity of Waystones. You can also come down to Fortunate Path, isn't really all that great. It basically just gives you like a chance for your Waystones to drop pre-alked, which is okay. I would say early on, I really was just doing a lot of blue maps, all the way up to like tier 14, tier 15, so not really the end of the world. Coming down and getting the high road though, giving yourself a chance for Waystones to just naturally drop a tier higher is potentially useful. At least on the way up to tier 15, then once you are in tier 15s, it's basically worthless. So in terms of the Atlas passive tree that I'm playing around with, the one that I'm like building toward, it is this. It is taking all of the map mod effect that we can, including this keystone, which gives you a 25 or a 50% chance of getting 25% more prefix effect. If you run this keystone and you have a map that has only prefixes, at least in patch 0.1, it would always choose prefixes. Like if there are no suffixes on your maps at all, it would never choose suffixes. It would always increase the prefixes. Or maybe I was just the luckiest man in the entire world. But at least for me, that is the way it worked. So I liked this quite a lot. We're still going to take Rising Danger. We're going to take that in every single strategy we possibly can. It's very good. I have played around with twin threats. This just adds one more rare monster. If you're deleting screens full of guys all at once, this can be okay, but it is 2 more points for just 1 more rare, so not amazing. Other than that, we're taking everything we can to just buff our map mod effect because we're trying to go very prefix heavy on all of our maps. We're obviously going to take some quant and rarity whenever we can get them, and just more Waystone effect again. Why not? Now, I'm speccing into essences just to kind of play around with them. Essences, they're not necessarily the best mechanic. You could do shrines instead, but I think the skeleton of a tree basically looks like all of these quant and rarity mods, the Waystone effect, and unstable energies, and then also all of these tablet mods up here as well. More tablets dropping in your maps, chance for double effective tablets, more map mod effect for each tablet or tower affecting the map area, increased tablet effect as well, and then again, more mod effect. I think the tree maybe would be more interesting if all of the map mod effect were removed. I think that this basically just boils down to, you take these because they make monsters drop more stuff, and it kind of kills a lot of the alternatives, because there are some interesting things around here, but I feel like you basically, if you want to get as much as you can out of the tree, you take all the Waystone effect and the quant and rarity, and then you have a little bit of 10 points or so left over to spin into one other mechanic. Just for comparison, I have a shrine tree where I'm not taking the essence stuff. I am losing some quant and map mod effect. Not much, but still a little. And then I'm speccing into a bunch of shrine related stuff over here. You can have your choice of shrines. You basically either want to take the XP shrines if you're still trying to get levels, or the seeking shrines for more rarity. Those are really good as well. And then still a lot of emphasis on map mod effect and quantity. I do think it's worth it to take twin threats if you're coming over here and doing shrines. I think this setup could be a lot more fun than the essence one, just because shrines are themselves very fun. I don't think that anything related to magic monsters, just to kind of point that out, I don't think anything related to magic monsters is particularly good. I also think this keystone ecological shift, 40% more chance of random extra content being strong boxes and shrines and essences and wisps and rogue exiles. I think this is really bad because it also comes with the downside of less monsters in your maps. I think that trade is not worth it at all, considering that you can't spec into all of the different types of extra content. So you're gonna have times where you get extra content that you're not juicing. I mean, most of the time you're gonna get extra content that you're not juicing, and you're losing monsters in all your maps to get it. So that just seems really bad. And then the third tree I have here is Rogue Exiles. I really like Rogue Exiles. I wish they were more rewarding, but I put a bunch of points into them anyways. Just, I think there's a lot of room to play around with them. You could do increased chance to get dexterity, and then increased chance to have weapons, and maybe you can try and hunt for tangle tongues that way. Then you wouldn't be able to get headhunters though, because unique jewelry would be not available. So definitely a lot to play around with. Maybe you would do the opposite, go strength, and try and get more unique armor, try and get Chernobog's pillar or something. Definitely a lot of ways you could play around with this and try and use Rogue Exiles as a unique farming tool. All right, now I'll just hit on the 4 league mechanics. So basically for all of them, what you want to do is you want to do spend your first couple of points, because you have to kill unique bosses in order to unlock the points for each of the different league mechanics. Breach, you collect breach splinters, make a breach stone, kill the breach stone boss, and you get points out of that, right? The same goes for basically all of these. Simulacrum is kind of the hardest of the 4 by far. And what you want to do with your first points is you want to just make it so that you get more breach splinters, or you get more delirium splinters, or you get more expedition logbooks. You get more chances to get back in there and kill that in-game content again and get more points, and so on until you finish the tree. So for the first 2 points of breach, you want to take this branch here that kind of this sort of looks like a left hand to me, so this would be like the ring finger, I suppose. And then I take the pinky, the first points on the pinky, just more clasped hands, more chances of monsters in there. And then the final node, I misclicked here actually. There we go. Then I take just the first knuckle of the middle finger on this hand here, and just give myself an increased chance of having extra breaches in all of my maps. Pretty basic. For Expedition, definitely you want to come up here and take Detailed Records as your, more runic monster markers with your first points, and more logbooks with your second pair of points. get more logbooks, get more chances to get into logbooks, find Ulroth, and get more points from him. Then you kind of have a choice with your next pair of points. You can either come down and do Unearthed Anomalies, which means a lot more remnant modifiers and increased effect of those modifiers in your maps. This can be very dangerous, but very rewarding. If you want to make it just like easier, just the easy move, you can just go with time detonations and legendary battles. This will give you more of the expedition currency, but expedition currency isn't worth very much. So I really think that doing like this spiral, the left one, and then the down spiral are like the kind of two that you want to go after. For bossing, you know, it's up to you. I think quantity and so on is pretty much the best option compared to rarity. And then if you're doing shrines or essences or whatever, make your pick in the middle branch, and then giving a chance to have corruption on all areas that have a map boss in them is just really good. So you do want to do that. For Delirium, your first 2 points are absolutely going to go into Get Out of My Head. This will just give you a chance all the time, whether you're interacting with Delirium or not, to get your maps to randomly drop with emotions freely applied to them. This can give you very high value emotions freely applied. So this is like just a chance to have like emotions that are worth a divine or more freely applied to your maps. Very rewarding. Then your second points are definitely going to be into Would You Like to See My Face, give you more simulacrum splinters. And then the left side of the tree is just much better than the right side of the tree. You know, the mirrors gives you more guys to fight in all of your Delirium encounters, and they're coming to get you, helps with making the Delirium encounters last longer, and all of the ones on the right, if you are anointing or using instilled emotions on your maps, all the ones on the right literally have no effect, and they're all kind of bad if you're doing Delirium mirrors, whereas the left stuff is good if you're doing instilled maps, and also pretty good if you're doing mirrors. Then you absolutely want to come and take Ominous Portents, and He Approaches as your first 2 points with Ritual, and Tempting Offers is just really good as well, so you'll want to take this as well, make it easier to reroll pages of Ritual, you know, get more chances to find something very valuable on your Ritual pages. So you kind of have a choice with your last 2 points. This is actually incorrect here. It makes it so that your maps with Ritual Altars will always have 4 Ritual Altars. That is what it says in game. This is actually, I guess, a mistake here. So you can take Spreading Darkness. This is what I prefer. It'll make your Ritual maps be consistently good. You could also just take From the Mist. This means sometimes you'll have maps that only have 3 altars in them. They won't be as good, but the maps that do already have 4 altars in them will be even better because you'll have 2 additional packs of monsters on those rituals. So there it is. GGG has made a big emphasis on upgrading the mapping experience in Dawn of the Hunt, and I think they've really been successful. It is so much better than it was in the initial release. This feels like a really solid foundation to build upon as they add in new content, and I am excited to do deep dives on all of the various league mechanics and see just how profitable they are in this league. Alright, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more like it, and if you want to support us even further, consider becoming a channel member. Thanks for watching, and have fun mapping. I know I am. Bye.